We would like to thank our year-round sponsors. To our partner, Union Bank of the Philippines. To our platinum sponsors, SGV and Company, First Philippines Holdings Inc., and LT Group Inc. To our gold sponsors, P&A Grant Thornton and Steel Asia Manufacturing Corporation. And to our patron sponsor, DMCI Holdings Inc.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Phoenix Second General Membership Meeting. The Way Forward, Understanding the Philippine Infrastructure Outlook and the Tax Regime under the New Administration. May I call on our host for today. He is 2016 Phoenix President and currently the Vice Chairman and Treasurer of OmniPay Inc. Let us all welcome Dr. George S. Chua.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second Phoenix General Membership Meeting, The Way Forward, Tax Regime under the New Administration, BOT Law, and Philippine Infrastructure. This GMM is presented by the Programs and Meetings Committee and by the Tax and Legal Committee. To formally open the program, may I call on our President, Mr. Wilson P. Tan, to call this meeting to order. Wilson.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me call the meeting to order.
Thank you, President Wilson. May I request everyone to join us in prayer. Let us all stand.
Let us put ourselves in the presence of God. Dear Lord, we offer this gathering to you and ask you to bless it with your wisdom and grace. We thank you for this opportunity for us to be together. We ask that you enlighten our minds and pour out on us the spirit of understanding. Guide us in our discussions and help us to know what it is pleasing to you. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Please remain standing for the Philippine National Anthem.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Sa langit mo, ay hirap ang
You may now take your seats. May I invite again President Wilson to deliver his report for the President's time.
Good afternoon once again. Honorable BIR Commissioner Romeo Lumagi Jr. and PPP Executive Director Maria Cynthia Hernandez, friends from the media, guests, my fellow directors and officers of FINEX, of course our members, good afternoon. As we are all aware of, President Bongbong Marcos signed EO number 14 last January 27, 2023, approving and adopting the Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028. The development plan, based on the President's 8-point socio-economic agenda, intends to run or to return the country to a high growth trajectory, while also enabling economic and social reform for a prosperous, inclusive, and resilient society. As financial and business executives, it is imperative that we understand and appreciate the plans and programs of our government, especially now that we are recovering from the adverse effects of the pandemic, as well as facing certain headwinds. Today, we are very fortunate to have two of our senior officials of our government who can share with us the plans toward expansion and upgrading of the country's infrastructure system, as well as the improvement of the tax regime. We in FINEX look forward to listening to our government officials, not just to understand their plans and programs, but likewise to identify areas where we can offer help and provide comments as needed. The past month in FINEX has been active and busy, and let me highlight some of the activities to date. First, on the week of January 9, from January 9 to 13, our committee chairs and vice chairs presented to the board of directors their plans and programs for the year. As expected, we will have a full year ahead of us. On January 23, your FINEX leadership was inducted into office by our fellow FINEX member, no other than our DTI Secretary, the Honorable Fred Pascual, on a pure face-to-face event. It was well attended. In fact, we had to add tables to accommodate everyone. Last January 31st, your board of directors met with the Council of Past Presidents, an annual tradition that allowed us to share our programs and listen to the wisdom of our past presidents to ensure that we provide relevant programs to our members and make significant contribution to our society as a whole. Last February 4, the Arts and Culture Committee, led by Chair Leah San Juan and Liaison Director Domingo, organized a tour of the Ateneo Art Gallery at the Arete, the first of many lined up for the year. A total of 35 members and guests joined that tour. Last week, February 14, through the Tax and Legal Committee led by Chair Ryan Cabello and Vice Chair Eric Recalde and Liaison Director and Past President Mike Guarin, we paid a courtesy visit to BIR Commissioner Jun Lumagi, and thank you, sir, for spending part of your Valentine's Day with us that day. And we discussed areas of collaboration as well. February 18, the Women in Finance Committee, through the leadership of Chair Daniel Del Rosario, Vice Chair Nikki Tang and Kai Reyes, and also through the our Liaison Director Terry Magleo, visited the Cristong Hari Parish community to witness the awarding of the Trikes for Business to the new sets of beneficiaries. The funds for that project came from the repayments from the previous beneficiaries. So this is a self-sustaining initiative of that committee. In terms of advocacy, FINEX provided comments to the Senate on the Public-Private Partnership Act bills and to Congress on the proposed draft bills to amend the Constitution through our National Affairs Committee. And thank you to Chair Risa Mantaring, our Vice Chair Romy Bernardo, and Liaison Director Peter Wallace for that initiative. On February 27, the ICT Committee, led by Chair Mark Goriseta, Vice Chair Bong Paloma, and Adrian Abrojena, and Liaison Director Sondi Garcia, will be sponsoring a seminar on Philippine Technology Roadmap with DICT Secretary Ivan Uy, BSP Deputy Governor Mamerto Tangonan, and SEC Commissioner Kelvin Lee as speakers. So we're looking forward to that event. See, technology and digital transformation is one of the pillars of the underlying theme of the PDP 2023 to 2028. On our next GMM in March, we hope to dig deeper into the proposed Maharlika Investment Fund. That will be the topic this March. We invited one of the sponsors of the bill in Congress to discuss in detail the objectives of the bill and a former BSP Deputy Governor to provide insights on the proposed bill. Please look forward to further announcement as to our future program for the year. We have also started our campaign for this year's year-round sponsorship. We hope that you and your companies will be one of them. The packages would include, of course, the partner level, platinum, diamond, gold, and patron level. And as of now, on behalf of FINEX and the board, I would like to express our sincerest gratitude to the following organizations for confirming their support for this year. Of course, we have Union Bank, First Philippine Holdings Corporation, the Lucitan Group of Company, PNA Grant Thornton, Steel Asia Manufacturing Corp., the MCI Holdings Corp., and we expect some more confirmations in the weeks to come. We hope that this campaign will help us undertake our ambitious programs for the year, especially so that we are moving to full face-to-face meetings this year. This year, we are also embarking on a membership recruitment campaign to increase our membership base, particularly among publicly listed companies and top 1,000 corporations. This was initiated by past President Mike Gorin last year. And I hope that we can add more to our membership, and I appeal to each one. If each one can sign up another one, I think our organization will continue to be able to sustain its growth. I would like to remind everyone also that the Grand Car Raffle will be on March 31, 2023. So end of March. So tickets are still available. You can own a car by just contributing 1,000 pesos. So please get your tickets. This project was initiated last year by Chair Eddie Yap and of course by Liaison Director Eddie Dichao. So and we would like to thank Cherry Auto Philippines for our for being our exclusive sponsor. So we will continue to update you in our upcoming programs and particularly on the developments of major trusts for this year. And we hope for your continuing support. Again, thank you.
Thank you, President Wilson. Now let us move on to inducting new members of FINEX. May I call on the Chairman of Membership Committee, Mr. Carlos Real Cervantes, to introduce our new members.
Good afternoon. We will now induct the following new members. I shall call on the name. I'll state the company, position, and the sponsor. First is Maria Socorro Gobrozo, Chief Finance Officer of G Exchange Inc. Incorporated, sponsored by Daniel Del Rosario. Next would be Beauregard Grant Cheng, Chief Finance Officer, Cebu Land Masters Inc. Incorporated, sponsored by Edith Bichauco. He was also our 2022 CFO of the Year awardee. Third would be Jose Luis Dabao, President of Kabangkalan Community Antenna Television Incorporated, KCAT, sponsored by Edmund Alan Kuahian Sen. Is Mr. Esquivas here? Okay. We have Luis Sixtus A. Esquivas, Vice President for Finance, Desixteen Corporation, sponsored by JJ Perlado. To add solemnity to the occasion, may I request all members on site to kindly stand, and those via Zoom to open your camera, and may I call on our President, Wilson P. Tan, for their oath of membership. Thank you.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Having been accepted as a member of the Financial Executive Institute of the Philippines, do hereby solemnly swear that I will to the best of my duties and responsibilities in the pursuit of its goals and objectives, that I will protect and uphold its constitutions and bylaws, that I will abide by its code of ethics, that I will observe the highest professional, moral, and ethical standards, that I will voluntarily impose this obligation upon myself without mental reservation or purpose of evasion. So help me God. Congratulations.
Thank you, Kaloy and President Wilson, and welcome to all the new members. We are now on the main part of our program. Now may I call on Mr. Michael Arcatomi Guarin, Partner, Deal Advisory, KPMG, RG Mabat and Company, and Liaison Director of Tax and Legal Committee to introduce our guest speakers.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'll be introducing both guest speakers, one right after the other, just to expedite the program. Our first speaker is Maria Cynthia C. Hernandez, currently an Undersecretary and the Executive Director of the PPP Center of the Philippines. Cynthia's area of expertise is in corporate finance, transaction advisory, and financial modeling and valuation. Prior to assuming her position at the PPP Center, she was a principal at the Deal Advisory Practice of KPMG in Philippines. She's also the secretary lead for energy and infrastructure, where she assisted corporate and multilateral clients. Her technical background, she is a licensed engineer, and it is a significant factor in her chosen career. In addition to her degree in metallurgical engineering, one of the few in the country from the University of the Philippines, she also acquired a master's in development economics from the same institution. And then additional information, she was an oblation scholar when she took the UPCAT during her earlier years. So in a career spanning over 23 years, Cynthia has been involved in significant deals and transactions as an advisor. As the head of the lead Philippine government agency for PPPs, she hopes to help drive economic growth through the development of inclusive and sustainable infrastructure projects. Thank you, USEC, Cynthia. It's our honor to have you here as our guest. And then for our second speaker later, we have Attorney Romeo D. Lumagi Jr., currently Commissioner of the BIR. Commissioner Lumagi is a tax lawyer who obtained his doctorate degree at Ateneo de Manila University School of Law, graduating with second honors. He is a bar top-notcher, ranking 19th in the 2006 Philippine Bar Examinations. And at the same time, he is a CFE, or a Certified Fraud Examiner. He joined CSIP Salazar Hernandez and Gatmaytan law offices, where he practiced taxation, among others. He spent 9 years in CCP Law, after which he established his own law firm together with CCP Law partners. He was a professorial lecturer at Lyceum of the Philippines, University College of Law, where he taught commercial law subjects. He was also a regular lecturer for mandatory or MCLE under the Integrated Bar of the Philippines. He is a public servant of the BIR, having served in various capacities in its operations and legal groups. He has served as Deputy Commissioner for Operations Group and Chief of Regional Investigation Division. He was also a technical assistant to the Commissioner. Concurrently, he headed task forces aimed at boosting collections for the country's coffers. He headed several task forces, such as Assets Recovery Task Force, where total collections amounted to over 800 million, and Task Force on Direct Selling, Multi-Level Marketing, and Investment Scams, where assessments totaled just below 800 million as well, both in just a span of around 1 year. And then he is also a member of Special Disciplinary Committee, specially created by the former BIR Commissioner to discipline erring revenue officials. And as mentioned by President Wilson during our Valentine date/courtesy call, we were very impressed with the sharing by the Commissioner, where among others, he wanted to focus on excellent taxpayer service, excellent objective, and integrity and professionalism of the agency. So we all look forward to hearing from our second speaker. Again, thank you, Commissioner, for accepting our invitation. So I would like to call back our MC, George. So again, thank you very much, Yusek, Cynthia, and Lumagi.
May I now call on our first speaker, the Honorable Maria Cynthia C. Hernandez, the Executive Director of the Public-Private Partnership Center of the Philippines.
Good afternoon, and I'm very honored to be here to present to the Financial Executives Institute of the Philippines, and I'll be discussing the way forward on the BOT law and Philippine infrastructure. So I joined PPP Center in September of 2022. So I just want to begin by discussing what we have achieved so far. So, So first is that we just want to highlight some of the early wins that we have accomplished. So the first is revising the 2022 implementing rules and regulations of the BOT law. So we think that the current revised version addresses stakeholder concerns on the financial viability and bankability of PPP projects and address concerns about potential delays due to extra steps, rigid processes, or ambiguous provisions. And these were the guiding principles in drafting the updated ICC guidelines. It's actually posted in the PPP Center website. And the guidelines really are very clear on streamlining the requirements and the processes in the approval of PPP projects. So optimally, let's say a solicited PPP project submitted to the ICC would be approved, let's say, at a maximum of 8 months. So we've actually instituted processes, whereas we regularly hold ICC Technical Board Cabinet Committee and NEDA board meetings, and we plan to keep that momentum moving forward. However, one of the things that we're also pushing for is the passage of an update to the BOT law, which we call the PPP Act, because we need to fully pursue these initiatives to really make PPPs a more viable mode for implementing infrastructure projects. So the BOT law is nearly 30 years old, and the amendment for this is among the priority legislations of the administration. So the President set out in his SONA, the inaugural SONA, that the PPP Act should address ambiguities in the existing law, address bottlenecks and challenges affecting the implementation of the PPP program, and foster a more competitive and enabling environment for PPPs. So just highlighting what the salient features of the proposed PPP Act and how it differs from the current BOT law. So there are reforms that address ambiguities in the existing law. We also want to fold in joint ventures under a unified PPP legal framework, provide a predictable tariff regulation regime that protects public interest, cure some concerns in the status quo, even it's small things like the cap or the minimum project cost. Still for national government agencies, still 250 million, you still have to go to the ICC for approval of projects, and that's unwieldy for the government itself. Put the process where data comes first, so that whatever bill be written in the contract, there is an assurance of predictability in favor of the private sector and to lower potential contingent liabilities. We hope that having more predictability in the PPP process will encourage investors to go into the PPP space. So there are also reforms that foster a more competitive and enabling. It's okay. Under the reforms that foster a more competitive and enabling environment for PPPs, one is we would allow alternative sources of financing, because the current law just looks at debt and equity straight, and it's part of the documentary requirements for PPP projects, which we think shouldn't be that stringent. Improve the framework for evaluating unsolicited proposals. Update approval thresholds, as I mentioned, for national PPP projects. Provide flexibility for the times the threshold would need to be updated. Also delegate approval of local PPP projects to the sanggunians of LGUs or boards of local universities and colleges. So there would be projects that don't need to go to the ICC for approval. And institutionalize and strengthen the PPP Center, the PPP Governing Board, and the Project Development and Monitoring Facility. So just, I guess I always get asked, what is the PPP program doing in terms of awarded projects and pipeline? So I mentioned the BOT law is almost 30 years old, and in those 30 years, as of the end of December 2022, in our database, there are 210 awarded PPP projects amounting to 2.33 trillion pesos. Out of these, 88 are national projects and 122 are local projects. In our current pipeline, there are 97 projects with a total estimated project cost of 2.284, 72 of which are national projects, and 25 of these are local PPP projects. So I don't know if that's inflation, but the total amount project costs are nearly the same for the project pipelines and the awarded projects. So in terms of the pipeline of PPP projects, of the 72 national projects, 55 are in the transportation sector. And for local PPPs, the emerging trends are also in transportation, but we are increasingly looking at renewable energy, tourism, and even IT as emerging sectors for PPPs. And also health, but I actually have a separate slide discussing that. Okay. So for the upcoming solicited transport sector projects, so it's actually a list of what the projects are and the regions where they are going to be implemented. So a lot of this is also an offshoot of the ODA financed rail infrastructure projects, which within the next few years would be bid out as a solicited PPP for the O&M components of the projects. And 25, so that's really just the transport projects. And then for the road projects, these are part of the National Master Plan for High Standard Highways of the DPWH. And these are the projects in that master plan that are identified to be, that are going to be done as PPPs. And I think what I want to highlight and what we are excited about is that I think on February 2, the NEDA board approved the first PPP project for this administration, and that is the UP PGH Cancer Center project. And we also have, a pipeline of health projects, some of which are under UP PGH, some under Department of Health, which are actually quite exciting for us, in particular the Vaccine Self-Reliance Project, and also the hemodialysis center projects, which are, if you look at it, relatively smaller project costs, but I think would be a big win in being able to mobilize private sector investments in a health area that has high demand and all over the Philippines. It's not just, NCR that will be getting the benefit of the hemodialysis PPPs. And we hope to roll this out actually on a regional basis. So, so I think one of the areas that we're refining now, because we have an approval in principle with from the NEDA board, from the ICC Cabinet Committee, is the development of the PGH Diliman project, which is a development of a new multi-story tertiary care hospital in the UP Diliman campus, which would also mean that there will be a UP College of Medicine in Diliman, which would address some of the concerns in the supply of doctors in the Philippines. So it's envisioned to be a world-class hospital serving the poor with the related educational and research facilities, which would have synergies with developments in the UP Diliman College of Science, Institute of Biology, and Institute of Microbiology. So this is one of the projects that we're hoping to also do within the so actually so basically what is PPP doing moving forward? So our strategy is to first to capacitate implementing agencies and attract more private sector investors to build more infrastructure in sectors such as transport, health, vertical infrastructure, water supply and sanitation, and tourism. Emerging areas for development are for renewable energy PPPs and PPPs with climate resilient features. We are also committed to develop emerging sectors seen in local PPPs, such as transport, tourism, health, IT systems, and renewable energy. So I was asked to try to keep the presentations short because I understand that the body wanted to have more time for questions. So that's the end of my presentation, and I'm looking forward to the discussion of Commissioner Lumagi as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, the Honorable Maria Cynthia C. Hernandez, the Executive Director of the Public-Private Partnership, PPP Center of the Philippines. Let's give her another round of applause, please. For our next speaker, may I call on the Honorable Leo D. Lumagi Jr., Commissioner of the Bureau of Internal Revenue. Let's give him a warm welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Ms. Cynthia Hernandez, Executive Director of PPP. Officials and of Phoenix, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. It is an honor to be speaking before the general membership of the Financial Executives Institute of the Philippines. Being the seabed of international leadership and the platform of national advocacy for financial issues, I know that Phoenix can be a great partner of BIR in its mandate of collecting taxes through just enforcement of tax laws for nation building and the upliftment of the lives of the Filipinos. This is why, despite the heavy workload that I have, I make sure that I have time to attend this general membership meeting, because I wanted to make you feel how important you are, the private sector, stakeholders, in our effort to collect taxes for the government. Wala po akong presentation, pero generally I will be discussing the plans and the theme of the BIR and how we intend to move forward in our tax administration. In 2022, we have collected a total of 2.34 trillion pesos. That's 12.21% higher than our revenue collections in 2021. We are able to achieve this milestone because of the collection efforts of our torchbearers, the tax officials, tax practitioners, financial managers, and taxpayers. I hope we could share the same commitment this 2023 as we try to achieve our collection target of 2.6 trillion pesos. So starting this year, we will be introducing gradual reforms with long-term benefits to tax administration. This is what I've been saying ever since I assumed office, from a goal-driven agency, primarily focusing on how to meet our collection targets. Will recalibrate our approach into a service-oriented office, marked by excellence, integrity, and professionalism. Magiging sentro ng koleksyon ng buwis ang maayos, simple, maaasahan, at tapat na serbisyo sa ating mga kababayan. Along these lines, let me briefly discuss our focus areas for the next few years. Again, number one is we intend to provide excellent taxpayer service. We will also enhance and seriously do our enforcement activities, and also the transparency and integrity and professionalism. Those are always, or should be always, within us in doing our jobs. And lastly, our digital transformation for the Bureau. On top of our plans is the Taxpayer Service Program. For the past several years, the performance of the BIR has always been measured by how well we fared at our collection efforts. Did we achieve our revenue targets? Yan naman po ang laging tanong sa amin. Did we exceed our collection goal? But this time, dadagdagan po namin ito. Hindi na lang po namin para sa amin, na limitado lang kami sa numero. We would like to be measured of our performance in the eyes of our taxpayers. Naging mabilis ba ang serbisyo? Naging tapat at maaasahan ba ang mga empleyado? May aberya ba sa pagbabayad ng buwis? Ito ang gusto nating na-focus ngayon para man medyo centered sa taxpayers ang aming approach. We will also expand our ISO certification to cover other frontline processes like the application for tax clearance for bidding purposes and the processing of one-time transactions. We will review, streamline, and standardize the processes on compliance to reportorial requirements, update of zonal values, VAT refund, and taxpayer segmentation. Of course, together with these, magiging useless naman ang ating mga improvements ginagawa kung hindi naman natin maparating sa mga taxpayers ang lahat ng ginagawa natin dito sa BIR. That is why we will also make sure to educate our taxpayers about their tax obligations. We will have massive dissemination of tax information to various social media platforms, including tapping on media influencers to promote our electronic services. We are shifting to this approach because we want to enhance voluntary compliance. Naniniwala po ako, karamihan sa ating negosyante ay mahal naman ang ating bansa at gustong magbayad ng tamang buwis, gustong makatulong sa ating mga kababayan, ngunit nahihirapan lamang sa komplikadong sistema. That's why yan po ang magiging focus natin. We are really studying every process so that we will be able to serve you properly. Kaya nga po, I value all these yung mga courtesy calls and meeting with associations so that we will be able to listen to your concerns and suggestions and comments so that, of course, with our limitations, kung kaya naman namin ibigay sa inyo yung mga request ninyo, gagawin po natin dahil ultimately hindi naman kami ang dapat ninyong pinagtutuunan ng pansin. Kami dapat ang nagtutuon ng pansin sa inyo dahil kayo ultimately ang siniserbisyohan ng BIR, and that is why our focus is really on the taxpayers na pag napagaan natin ang buhay at ang transactions sa BIR ay I'm sure everybody will comply with their tax obligations. Lagi ko nga rin pong sinasabi ito that tax is very technical and very difficult to understand. That's why susubukan po natin talaga na pumunta sa inyo. We are thinking of ways to reach out to the taxpayers to educate them dahil importante na malaman nila ang kanilang obligations and responsibilities. And again, Phoenix as one of the premier institutions in this country with respect to financial matters, malaking bagay ang lahat ng magiging suggestions ninyo. That's why we will continue an open dialogue and communication with your officers so that all your suggestions and comments in our processes will be incorporated in our revisions or in our mga policies dito sa BIR. Again, we value your insights and comments. Of course, I take it as a positive criticism. Lahat naman ng mga mapipintas nyo, kung pintas man yan, whether good or bad, diba? I'm sure that your intention is not just to destroy the reputation or name of BIR, but to improve the BIR for the common good at para sa ating bansa. So, again, the Bureau is to ensure everyone pays his or her fair share, especially those who have the resources. For our enforcement activities, magiging stricto rin po kami sa aming enforcement activities because along with the ensuring excellent taxpayer service, kaya naman po natin ginagawa ang pagbibigay ng magandang serbisyo ay para voluntarily mag-comply ang lahat ng taxpayers sa responsibilities and obligation when it comes to the tax obligations. So papadaliin po natin yan para wala na pong excuse kasi para hindi na kayo mahirapan. And at the same time, since mapapadali natin ang lahat ng proseso, we will be strict now on our enforcement, mga talagang hindi nagbabayad ng mga buwis at mga engaged in illegal activities. Nakita naman po natin that since we assumed office, marami na po tayong mga hinuhuli na mga negosyante that are involved in illegal activities. Medyo seryoso po tayo na mga industries like illicit cigarette and vape products na hindi mga rehistrado. And also we will go after smuggling of fuels. We will help with that. And lastly, with the fake receipts, which again, sinasabi lang namin na fake receipts, but these are not fake receipts technically. To be technically correct, these are registered receipts, but without underlying transactions. So fake transactions po ito, kaya may nilunsad po tayo na run after fake transactions. Magugulat po kayo sa magnitude nito. Ang tagal-tagal ng kalakaran pero hindi mahuli-huli dahil mahirap may mga complications. But this time we're very stern and we are very serious in pursuing these type of illegal activities. So nahuli na po natin yan, kaya ang lagi nating mensahe patuwing nagsasalita tayo sa publiko ay sana matigilan ang ganitong uri ng kalakaran. Those people who are engaged in the selling of these receipts, and also those businessmen who are buying these fake receipts. Minomonitor po namin yan at hindi nyo na po magagamit ang mga resibong binibili na naman transaksyon. Nasa sa amin na po ang mga datos niyan at sa susunod na panahon, sa mga susunod na araw, in the coming days and the coming months, we will be filing the appropriate charges against these people dahil kailangan ng matigil yung ganitong uri ng kalakaran. So we will continue with our Run After Tax Evaders program, Oplan Candado program, and we intend to file these charges against the sellers and users of the invoice. Lahat ng ginagawa natin from the raid, yung paghuhuli, sinisigurado po namin na para walang maisip na maling nagagawa at activities, enforcement activities. Sinisigurado po namin na kapag ka nag-raid kami, ay tinutuloy namin sa pagpa-file ng kaso. So that you know that hindi namin to pinabayaan. That's why every time we want to complete the story, that from the raid to the filing of the charges and to the destruction of the seized illegal items. Gagawin po natin yan para kumpleto po ang storya. At makikita po, we will be transparent in all our enforcement activities. So we will also suspend or cancel the certificate of accreditation of practitioners and initiate administrative complaints for the suspension or revocation of professional licenses of CPAs involved in these fake transactions. Kasi po nakita rin po natin na yung mga ibang kumpanya na nagbebenta nitong peking resibo ay mga fictitious din. Pero iisa ang mga CPA at accountant ng mga grupong ito. That's why we will treat them as co-conspirators with respect to these illegal activities at sila po ang mananagot dyan because again, who are they auditing kung fictitious ang mga tao behind these corporations? So we will be very serious about this transaction. We will focus our enforcement activities against tax evaders because honest taxpayers should not bear the burden of others who skirt their responsibilities. We will put more emphasis on tapping into the huge pot of uncollected taxes which escape the public purse through illegal activities. Ultimately, ang nagsasuffer po dyan sa mga ganyang uri ng kalakaran ay yung mga honest taxpayers because it's not a level playing field. May mga gumagawa ng illegal. Ngayon, yung mga gustong gumawa ng hindi na ay nalulugi eh. So we want to really level the playing field and remove these illegal activities and smuggling. Kaya we will be very serious against this. And as part of our internal cleansing efforts, hindi lang naman tayo magiging matapang sa paghahabol sa mga tax evaders at gumagawa ng illegal na aktibidad sa labas ng Bureau. We will also do our own internal cleansing. Seryoso rin po ako na magbigay ng integrity and professionalism inside the Bureau. We have the Integrity Management Program, which seeks to promote integrity, honesty, and transparency throughout the Revenue Service by expediting preliminary investigation on complaints or reports against the BIR personnel, and also disposition of administrative cases submitted for decision. We have also undergone several vetting processes and integrity checks prior to assignment to key positions. Gusto natin maayos, mahusay at matinong pamamalakad. That's why when we assign people to key positions, Sinisigurado po natin na nag-background check at lahat po ng mga notorious ay matatanggal po natin. Kaya po, lahat po ng inyong reklamo, very much welcome po sa atin yan dahil gusto ko po na kahit paano makatulong na magkaroon ng integridad ang aming ahensya. Yan din nga po ang sinasabi ko sa mga taga-BIR, we should love our agency and we should respect our agency. Gusto ko po kapag sinabi na taga-BIR, it's an institution of integrity and excellence. Dahil I always remind them that we should be proud of where we work. Hindi yung alam naman natin yung negative image or ng BIR. So we want to really remove that and we want to improve with your help. Kaya po kung meron din po kayong sumbong sa mga hindi gumagawa ng kanais-nais at yung mga nakaugalian na hindi, but we will strive to improve that and remove these type of activities inside the BIR as well. And we are also continuously upgrading digital programs to lessen compliance and make our electronic systems useful, efficient, and responsive to the needs of our taxpayers. Mas mapapabilis ang mga transaksyon gamit ang mga makabago, mali at mabilis na online facilities like business registration, filing of returns, and payment of taxes can be completed with just a few digital clicks. So we will have automated and contactless and corruption-free system. Yan po ang ating aim. At gusto rin po natin tanggalin yung mga suki-suki na mga audit. Yan po ang sinisikap namin na gawin. The process of selection for audit will be done via automated process. So kung eventually, of course, we're just starting the process, hindi naman po kaya itong gawin overnight, but hopefully sooner than later we'll be able to do this na kapag kayo na audit at na-issuehan ng LOA ay there is really a red flag in your accounting system or in your figures, in your financial statements. Hindi na po yung mga suki repeatedly being audited despite the fact that you're trying to comply with all your tax obligations correctly. So we have several projects under the DX, that's what we call it, a DX program, which aim to transform the Bureau into data-driven organization. We will have a digitally empowered and resilient workforce utilizing reliable, scalable, and robust digital technologies and infrastructure to aid BIR services and elevate taxpayer experience. We currently have 41 projects under the revised DX program and 8 being fully implemented, 11 in the phases or partially implemented, and 22 on the pipeline for 2023 onwards. So hopefully we'll be able to finish these so that all your transactions will be much easier. All these and more are what you can expect from our end. On your part, the members of Phoenix, the country organization of finance professionals, the gateway to our taxpayers, we expect full collaboration and we welcome that. Help us meet our collection targets. Help us provide excellent taxpayer service. Help us plug tax loopholes and help us achieve transparency and integrity in our ranks. Help us transform the Bureau into a digitally empowered agency. And in effect, you are helping the government attain sustainable economic growth and development. Sana po samahan nyo kami ng misyon. Sana po simula po ngayon ang collection target na binibigay sa BIR ay hindi na lamang po collection target ng BIR alone, but also collection target of all of us. We should aim to achieve the collection target because ultimately the amount is be used for government, for the government's infrastructure projects and for the development of the Philippines and for nation building and the upliftment of the lives of the Filipinos. Kaya nga po ang napili po natin na 2023 tax campaign theme ay tulong-tulong sa pagbangon, kapit kamay sa pag-ahon, buwis na wasto alay para sa Pilipino. Pagtulungan po natin ang collection target, pagtulungan po natin ang pag-ahon ng Pilipinas, mahalin po natin ang Pilipinas. Kaya nga nung eksakto yung courtesy call ng mga officials ng Phoenix Valentine's Day, nandun po sila sa opisina at nagdi-discuss kami how we can collaborate and help each other improve and again I'm very much appreciative of the courtesy call and the discussion and the future collaboration. Kita niyo rin po kahit ang necktie ko, heart. Yan, dahil punong-puno ng pag-ibig ngayong buwan ng Pebrero. And yun po, ang gusto ko po sanang mensahe natin ay mahalin po natin ang at bayan at sama-sama nating paunlarin po ito. So again, maraming salamat po at magandang hapon po sa ating lahat.
Thank you very much to the Honorable Romeo D. Lumagi Jr., the Commissioner of the Bureau of Internal Revenue. Let's give him another round of welcome applause. Before we proceed, allow me to recognize the past presidents of Phoenix in attendance right now. And when I call your name, please stand up and be recognized. And this is not according to age. So first is we have Dennis Decena. Next, we have past President Ronnie Alcantara. Umalis na. And then we have past President Jeng Kwal. And past President Mike Gorin. And yours truly. Now we go into the next interesting part of our program, which is the open forum. So first of all, allow me to thank the Executive Director Hernandez, Commissioner Lumagi, and may I invite all of you to join us on stage for the open forum. And to moderate this open forum, may I call on Managing Partner of Mata Perez Tamayo and Francisco Attorneys at Law, and Phoenix Foundation Member, Board of Trustees, Attorney Uni Marie Mata Perez.
Thank you, George. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner and Honorable Cynthia, for joining us this afternoon. So this is an interesting afternoon for us. Both your departments are really keys to development. PPP and of course the Bureau of Internal Revenue plays a very key role in our development, and we are all interested and we're all for your success. And how will they send the questions again? They said I will just get it in my Viber messages. To whom should they send? If you know, just send it to. For your questions, please send to the Phoenix Secretariat via Lynn at this number via Viber. Anyway, but let me start. But may I do ladies first? Commissioner, may I? Because I'm sure mas madaming tanong sa'yo eh. So, anayin ko si Ma'am Lynn. We are very happy that this current government is supportive with PPP. And we have seen PPP work, and even if you go around the region, countries, you would see PPP or private partnership, I think, at work in all their infrastructure. And infrastructure is really key to development. And we know that the PPP Center has done a lot in amending the IRR to make it easy, and now we have a pending law. But ma'am, may I really ask you, what do you see as the main challenges really, or obstacles to PPP projects now in the Philippines? And maybe just give us, because of course we know there's so many obstacles in this country, but can you just give us maybe 2 or 3 main obstacles, whether it's in the process, in the permitting, or in the approvals, which you think hamper the PPP projects in the Philippines, and what are being done to address these hurdles?
Yes, I think the first would be really on the institutional framework, which we are trying to remediate suggested passages in the PPP Act, which I discussed in in the presentation. I think one thing that the current administration is doing is really being very mindful on holding these key meetings, as in we do that regularly. For example, the NEDA board, which I mentioned, the Cancer Center PPP was approved. That was already the third NEDA board. And every time there's a NEDA board, the president would ask, where are the PPP projects? So it's really driven from the top also yung focus for PPPs. The second, I'll discuss three lang muna. The second is really, I think medyo nudge kay Commissioner to, is that there is actually really limited fiscal space. So we usually talk of PPPs as being able to tap private sector resources to finance PPPs, but sometimes the government has to also fund in terms of the viability of these projects. Because really, infrastructure, your main objective in developing that is really for economic development, if you're looking at it from the government lens. So sometimes it's not exactly feasible for the private sector. There's really some projects that support is needed. So what we are trying to do also is to really revisit all of these projects to see, how else we could structure them such that medyo malilimit yung any VGF or availability payments that the government would need to provide. The third is really on the absorptive capacity of different government agencies to do PPPs. So for example, local governments can actually do PPP projects by themselves, but we really have to expend a lot of effort to assist them in terms of capacity building, or even, let's say, reviewing any proposals that they get, such that we apply a very uniform standard for quality, making sure that the contracts aren't unbalanced. So while we see that there's so many areas that can actually go into PPPs, sometimes medyo even, let's say, the skill of identifying, I'm a government agency, I have so many projects that I want to do. How do I identify?
Which is bagay for
pwedeng PPP. So we're trying to help them to do that first step.
So you mentioned institutional, the support that has to be government and capacity of the government agency. But there's also, somebody raised this with me, risk allocation, sponsor capacity, vetting, maintenance, and operating of projects once they're done, special interest groups intervention, this probably means political intervention, and honoring contract terms. I know, no? This is especially on the tariff rates, I think. What can you say about these issues on PPP?
Actually, that's actually one of the lesser known functions of PPP Center. We also have a project monitoring group.
Project monitoring,
yes. We actually, but it's actually really small. So we still also need to grow that particular division. And the vision is, and I've been telling our people who are in the PMD, it's not enough to get all of these reports, diba? We should be able to flag itong mga PPP projects na to, given the KPIs, given the commitments, alin ba dito yung nag-aalanganin? And we should be able to, I think, before any of the parties would go to arbitration, let's try to see if we could, before things escalate, get the parties together and discuss why is this.
So how long na ngayon to take off a PPP project?
Sorry?
How long does it take?
A PPP project, let's say in development, it could take 2 to 3 years. Approval, 1 year. Building would be like
4 years. 3 plus 1.
5 years, depende.
5 years na.
Yeah. Some projects.
By the time we have the infrastructure, we have
7, 11 years na yata. And during the session period, which could be 20 years, 25 years, sometimes hindi na yun masyadong na-highlight. But I think the monitoring function of the P Center, of these things that we also want to be strengthened.
Do you have an idea of the EDSA bus?
The EDSA busway is currently
EDSA rapid bus system.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's actually in our pipeline for a project study. So before the ICC would approve the project, we need to have a detailed feasibility study on how it would work, financial model, how to structure it. So it's with PPP Center, we're going to fund that. So we have a project development and monitoring fund that's designed for government agencies to access consulting services.
Thank you so much. We wish you luck, but I think, ma'am, the last GMM of Phoenix, or was it MAP? I got confused. Joey Salcedo was the speaker, and he really said that our main problem, or the main problem, is ease of doing business or the facility of approvals. So I hope that the facility of approvals for PPP project will be addressed, no? Because if they need to go get approvals from the top down to the barangay, that's really our issue. Because you know how many matters can get in the way. Can I go to our commissioner? Commissioner, thank you so much. And I really admire your vision and your fresh look at the BIR. And I've heard you speak many times, and I admire your thrust on streamlining, educating people, improving taxpayer service, working on the reputation of the BIR, and of course, fighting against corruption. But Commissioner, maybe just an overall question first. Then can I just also ask your top 3 issues, or to be really your top 3 you think are your greatest obstacles in your term?
Well, greatest obstacle, I think, siguro that the entire system, it's already there. So changing an entire system is very difficult. From the system of how people work to the infrastructure and the IT system. Napakaraming kailangan gawin at improve so that, like for example, the IT system, dahil during the entire time na nagkaroon ng mga systems, hiwa-hiwalay yung system, and so we use a lot of programs and applications and systems na kailangan sana ma-incorporate lahat so that all systems will communicate. Kaya lang our challenge with that, number 2, is the budget. Lagi naman kasing kadalasan walang pondo. So that's our also one of our greatest siguro problem that we need to really address, because every time we need to, like even the infrastructure ng mga buildings. That's why sabi mo kanina, tatanungin ko siya kung paano ang BOT ng National Office Building, because that's also our challenges, like our district offices are just renting the office spaces, and then you'll be surprised that kadalasan kasi nirereklamo kami na hindi maganda ang serbisyo, but when you really look at the office, ang nirereklamo talaga is yung hassle ng facility. But I'm not saying that that's just the sole reason for the complaints, no? Kasi one time pumunta rin ako sa isang district office, pagkita mo doon, ang problema is it's really the facility, kaya lang wala naman kami nagawa because it's a budget that's given to us. We apply for budget para magkaroon kami ng sariling building so that it will be huge enough to accommodate the taxpayers inside the building. Kasi maraming district offices cannot accommodate taxpayers inside the building itself. So nakapila sila dun sa labas, although we're addressing that through automation and itong IT para naman ma-lessen yung mga taong pumupunta sa opisina. But then again, even yung budget namin, makikita mo dun sa pag in-itemize natin yung budget, cut down yung budget namin sa rental excess. Paano naman namin gagawin? Rent, fixed na yun. Pero tatanggalin at bababaan ng DBM yung aming budget for mga fixed costs namin. So, dyan kami nagkakaproblema. So, kapag humihingi kami ng budget for IT to improve our systems, nagkakaproblema. That's why we run to mga ADB, yung mga ibang nagbibigay ng grants. But then, syempre, limited din. So, if we want to improve kailangan ng pondo para dito, malaking pondo. So, yun po yung mga challenges natin dito.
There's a question here. The tax amnesty is expiring already. This year.
Sa estate, yes.
Is there a move to extend it?
Well, for extension, I've not heard of any move to extend, but Kasi it's not really up to us, it's really up to Congress. But again, we haven't heard of any discussion towards it.
There's no bill, right? There's no pending bill.
I'm
As
not
of
that I'm aware of as of now.
There's another question about accounting firms. You mentioned this earlier. You said you want to run against them. So what are your specific steps on running against them?
Well, actually, yung dito sa mga accountants na like talagang mahuhuli naman na involved in, actually more specifically here in the fake transactions, itong nahuli natin na fake receipts, because ultimately pag nakita natin yung na-raid natin that the business that is involved in fake transactions, all 103 corporations that we were able to catch, iisa yung accountant eh. So talagang alam niya, and syempre wala namang makakagawa ng ganitong uri ng illegal activity without the help of the accountant. So if we're able to send a message to the accountants to just do yung proper accounting, we will be able to solve a little of our huge part of our problem, because they themselves will be able to check the compliance of the taxpayers. So mas madadalian na rin kami dahil at least yung mga some parts of the illegal activities being or happening around would be lessened through them.
You mentioned earlier that, of course, the system is always an issue. So there's a question here. Do you have any program to simplify tax compliance? That's really our issue. The requirements for the big companies are the same for the small. And I think 97% naman of the collection is from voluntary, right? But you have the tax evaders, and you have the outside, the ones who don't pay taxes, which are usually the small ones. Market vendors, for instance, and all those other small ones. So I think, so what's the plan of the year? You mentioned that you also want to run against the evaders. Evaders are the smugglers or the really non-paying. But there's also the other aspect that they just don't pay because they cannot comply. So what are your plans for them?
Yes, that's why we will be very aggressive in hopefully we will be aggressive in improving the systems. I think maraming improvement dun sa ease of paying taxes bill that's currently pending, and hopefully once it's passed, we will be able to classify the taxpayers or to segment the taxpayers to large and medium and the small ones, so that for the small ones, mag-iiba na ngayon yung mga requirements than the large taxpayers. Because ultimately, syempre, mas simple dapat sa small taxpayers na mga requirements. So, yan ang, kaya that's also why we want a constant communication with all these all the associations like Phoenix, so that you can also give suggestions to us on what we can improve on. Just take into account or keep in mind also the limitation that we have being government agencies, that we're bound by the law. Sometimes kasi yung mga ibang requirements dyan, it's not within our discretion, because it's being required by law. So that siguro when you do your own recommendations, siguro yun nga, hopefully the recommendations take into consideration the law, the requirements imposed by law. Tapos at least andun yung recommendation that we need to go to Congress to address the issue. Pero ang sinisikap natin ngayon, marami tayong pinag-aaralang issuances, so that if we can do away with certain duplicitous requirements, then we will do so. So yan naman ang ating commitment, and kaya magiging matapang. Kasi alam mo, imagine yung yung once we did that raid on illegal vape products, those unregistered vape products, yung effect kasi nga, if you only look at the numbers, yung 97% coming from voluntary compliance and only 3% from enforcement activities. Actually, that's not really, some nga 11% ang enforcement activities. Now, yung effect kasi ng aming enforcement activities on the voluntary compliance is also huge. Like for example, soon as we filed the criminal charges against the illegal vape traders last January, we conducted the raid last December and then we followed through by filing the criminal charges them. alam mo yung product registration ng illegal vape trades went up by 300%. So ganun kalaki ang nagiging effect ng enforcement activities to the voluntary compliance. And then we also talk to the vape associations that help us reach out to these vape traders that they should register. And then we will simplify the process. We will help them register. That's why nagkaroon kami ng mga checklist to simplify the process, that if you want us to conduct briefing, gagawin namin yan para naman talagang ma-educate. Ito lang naman ang simpleng requirements eh. And also like marami kasing misunderstanding. Like last week ata yun, I met with yung mga lottery agents sa PCSO. They numbering out 10,000 nationwide. Nagkakaroon ng problema, hindi sila registered because they have this misconception that since they're called agents of PCSO, they think they're banking on the exemption of PCSO and the fact that PCSO is not requiring them receipts. So that's why they're not registered, they're not registering, they're not getting official receipts because it's not required by PCSO. But nung pinaliwanagan lang naman sila, no, that you're a separate business. Need to register. When you it doesn't follow that since PCSO is not requiring these documents from you, it doesn't follow that you're not obliged to register. So because this is another requirement as a business entity.
It has been shown that industry cooperation and support helps in your life. And the number one success story about that was really the Mighty cigarettes. So that formula and how it worked will be used for the other aspects like in vape cigarettes, in other industries like the stainless steel industry, because the legitimate producers and traders would really like, nalulugi sila sa illegitimate. So they would like a legitimate to follow and pay taxes. So even yung playing field. So I think that's a very good move to go to the industries so they can assist the Bureau and they can cooperate, provide information, and even the technical support. There's a question here, Commissioner, on POGO. There was now some investigation. There was the Senate in the... there's this that... let me read this question. Sorry. It was uncovered during a recent... This is a phone texted question, so I cannot... It was uncovered during a Senate committee hearing that the third party hired by PAGCOR to audit the POGO operators to validate their revenues turns out to have been selected based on questionable documents. So it is now believed that the revenues of the POGO operators are also wrongly estimated or maybe reported by said third party. Is this something that the BR is looking into, and are you aware of this, Commissioner?
Well, ever since very controversial ang POGO, no? So that's why we revived the task force on POGO, because nakita rin natin that even the service provider may problema even with their reporting of their obligations and their taxability. So yung figures na nire-report nila magkakaiba talaga. That's why when we discussed with Senator Win Gatchalian, nakita rin naman natin, and we're thankful to him that na marami siyang nabibigay na information sa atin. So rest assured that we will really investigate this as well para naman magtugma. And we have a good relations with PAGCOR. So this time, kasi before I know that medyo hindi cooperative before ang PAGCOR. That's why hindi transparent yung process, kanya-kanyang data, so that hindi namin din nakikita. Kaya surprisingly, when we're tracking down the revenues of all POGO operators, magkaiba yung figures ni PAGCOR than the figures ng BIR. So ngayon, with all the coordination and yung help of these agencies, kaya ngayon mukhang ang nakikita ko maganda ang nagiging relationship of government agencies, because we're trying to help each other right now. So si DOJ is also very helpful, the ICT is also very helpful, and as well as PAGCOR. So we will be able to get the data from them.
Very good. Commissioner, What's your take on this? There are many international tax trends. This, because this international tax issues, especially on digital transactions, you probably know that. But there's a question here. What is the take of BIR on the BEPS, base erosion and profit shifting? Although naging base allocation na nga yata yung issue ngayon, hindi na profit shifting.
Well, that's an important issue as well. Sinusubukan natin. That's why siguro in the coming months or years, we're trying to establish an international international law, tax law division separate from the ITAD, yung international tax on. So kasi si ITAD is hindi masyadong it's not focused on audit and itong mga BEPS issues and transfer pricing issues. So what we want is a division or an entire service that's devoted to this.
Yeah, I think you'll capacitate the international of the BIR, so that you can also, like, transfer pricing can be a very good audit area if you have the capacity to do it. Commissioner, so I think the other one that I think maybe, may I just raise a point, this will probably, because of the high cost of litigation, because of the high filing fee, many taxpayers would like to appeal to your office before going to the CCA. But in the past, all appeals to the commissioner was handled by a very competent appellate division in the BIR, which division has been abolished, I understood, during the time of Commissioner Chato. So if you can consider looking into the system so that all those appeals to the commission appellate division in the bureau,
yes,
in the national office, is not
it
functioning.
Still exists.
It exists.
Yes, there's still an appellate division in the BIR.
And it's functional. So lang
It's
yung appeal
functional.
namin sa office mo doon.
Yes, the problem is it's burdened with a huge inventory of appeals.
Oh.
And the number of lawyers there and number of personnel in the appellate division count. That's also again one challenge that we have. Ang pinapagawa ko, I'm having a review of the entire plantilla of the BIR because we can only serve the taxpayers if we have sufficient number of employees.
Correct.
That's
You only
why
have about 7,000.
matagal na. Like right now, 14,000.
14,000.
14,000. We have 14,000, 17,000 plantilla items. So we need to be aggressive in our recruitment to complete the entire plant. But even if we do so, even if we fill up the entire plantilla, it's not enough to service the taxpayers because matagal na yan na fix yung plantilla items. And the taxpayers are, the number of taxpayers are exponentially growing, but our employees remain the same. So one solution is the digital transformation project. Hopefully, with the limited number of plantilla or limited number of employees, kaya ng serbisyuhan yung increasing growing number of taxpayers because of the automation process.
Correct.
But the problem is, we still need a review of the entire plantilla item because we don't have items for IT and all these so we still need an overhaul of the plantilla items of the bureau and as well as the salaries. Hindi kami makapag-cope sa mga salaries ng accountants and lawyers outside.
Even siguro sa PAO.
Pinakamababa. Yes, ang layo namin sa PAO.
Sa PAO, 90,000. Ako alam ko yan. So Commissioner, last question because we admire your advocacy against corruption. So there's a question here, how can they report corruption? Meron ka ba ng direct line?
Well, there's an email. You can email maybe commissioner@bir.gov.ph. Welcome po yan. Pero sana naman please also understand that hindi naman din ako pwedeng umakto just based on hearsay or yung mere kwento. I will really act on your complaint and your information if it's complete and verifiable. Yan naman ang gusto nating muha because if it's not verifiable, yung mga magsasabi lang na, Commissioner, may ganito, ganyan. How can I address it if the details are not complete?
Yeah.
So, kailangan kumpleto yan kasi minsan may magsusumbong ang sunod kong question, matapang ka ba? Kaya mo bang humarap? Because ultimately, I need enough basis and sufficient and strong basis to act on it. Kasi hindi rin naman ako pwedeng mag-freezer or magtanggal or mag-discipline, suspend or dismiss an employee without proper basis. So kung bibigyan nyo ako ng enough basis, we will really do it.
Commissioner, one more kasi magagalit si Terry sa akin dito. Now, we want to help the government digitalization. So there's a question, why are online payment solutions taxed at 2% when we are not merchant on records?
Sorry, again.
Why are online payment solutions, ito siguro yung collection agents, mga bayad centers, and or withholding tax, are taxed like 20 top corporations, you're required to withhold 2% on payments. Transaction only passes through us and we are not the one actually earning. They treated us like credit card companies and even with higher tax rate, which is 2% compared to 0.50% of credit card companies. Are you aware of this?
Yun yung sa withholding, ano?
Credit,
the
2% credit for withholding tax. No?
Yung the required dun sa mga payments.
Yes.
Well, I guess siguro that's one way of monitoring and making sure that we are able to siguro gather and information dun sa mga payees and make sure that we're able to
Commissioner,
collect.
review na lang the rate. Can we, baka the rate is too high compared out to credit card companies.
Because yung ibang payment platforms, I think we just recently, yung 0.5 lang naman po, 1.5%.
Yeah, so may 2% na yung
I don't
ibang
know
online
yung
payment
2%.
solutions.
Oo.
Anyway, George, I think, yes.
Yes, can I request our guests to stay on stage? And we'd like to thank again Executive Director Hernandez and Commissioner Lumagi. Thank you as well to Attorney Yuni for moderating the open forum. Now let me invite back on stage, President Wilson to award the token of appreciation to our speakers. Now may I call on the tax partner of KPMG, Manabat and Company, and also Phoenix Tax and Legal Committee Chairman, Mr. Ryan Cabello, to deliver his closing remarks.
So good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of my fellow next members, I would like to thank our speakers today, Honorable BIR Commissioner Attorney Romeo D. Lumagi Jr. and Honorable PPP Executive Director Cynthia Hernandez for sharing with us their vision, plans, and objectives within their respective agencies. This engagement between the government and the business community is an important exercise to ensure that the public and private sectors are aligned in building a strong economy and environment. If we are to forge ahead and accelerate inclusive and sustainable growth, as what our Phoenix 2023 theme is, we must work together to promote policies and programs that will make it easier for businesses to operate and grow, and while at the same time, support nation building. It is encouraging to hear that the BIR is focused on improving its procedures and promoting efficiencies in its processes. Hearing from Commissioner Lumagi that the BIR will recalibrate its ways of doing things with focus on excellent taxpayer service, with integrity and professionalism, will launch programs to enhance voluntary compliance by educating the public, and collaborate with organizations for continuous improvement are really inspiring. The lineup that Executive Director Hernandez shared is exciting. These projects are much needed to improve infrastructure and livelihoods in addition to promoting inclusive economic growth. I am particularly interested in upcoming projects on transportation, like NCR EDSA busway, further improvements on our airport. It would be a great comfort for the public to see a more orderly EDSA and NAIA in the future. It is an exciting time for our country. As we emerge from the effects of the pandemic and lockdowns, it is indeed the time to forge ahead and ensure an inclusive and sustainable future for all. Again, thank you to our speakers, Phoenix leaderships, and to all of our attendees today. Have a good rest of the day, and again, thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. May I now call on our President, Wilson, to officially close the program.
Thank you for attending today's GMM. Looking forward to meeting you again in March. Thank you, Commissioner BIR. Thank you, BIR Commissioner June Lumagi, and also Executive Director Cynthia Hernandez.